Hi everyone, today we're going to be making a little needle felted sculpture of Marie inspired by the Aristocats by Disney. She is about 3 inches tall and wide. Her head moves, you can turn it, and she can be posable, but I like her in this little sitting position. She sits up all by herself. Some of this tutorial is sped up and some of it is cut off. Like, I am assuming this is kind of an intermediate tutorial. I'm assuming you already know how to make a ball and kind of shape it into the oblong shape of her head. Just felt that all over to get a nice kind of semi-flat shape of her head. Go ahead and if you don't know how to make a ball, you're very brand new to needle felting, I recommend my heart diffuser charm video. I'll put that link in the info box below. It's the same thing as the heart, you just make it into a ball, and then you kind of felt on the top 2 corners to make a point of her head, and then felt around the bottom. You can always add little balls on the side or so, just to make it the right shape. And when you're happy with that, we'll go ahead and move on to making her ears. Also, just FYI, if you like her and you would like to buy her outright, you don't have the time to make her yourself, you can check my Etsy shop, Tiny Bird Treasure. I may have her available. At the time of making the video, I have the exact one that I have listed at the beginning of the video in the shop, but depending on how long my video is up is whether I have her available. But you can always check. If people like her, I'll keep making her. She's really fun. I really enjoyed making her. I made these ears a little thicker than I would have liked. This is actually a secondary piece that I went back and I made her head by myself and then decided maybe she'd make a good tutorial. So the wool, you just probably need to use less wool unless you want a really plush Marie. So you just keep that in mind. You might want to use less wool than I did. And the whole one that I'm working on in this video, she ended up, I'm not doing all of the fine detail work, the finishing work in this video. It's mostly just the construction, and then because it took me almost 6 hours to make Marie. That's I have listed that I have as the beginning of the video. So and obviously people aren't going to watch a 5 or 6 hour needle felting video. So I'm assuming that you understand how to do all the finishing touches and really felt everything down once you get all of her features and body and limbs and everything set. I'm assuming you understand how to felt it down to get all of the definitions. And this right here is how you attach the ear. Kind of leave some free flying wool at the bottom of your ear and just felt that right onto the back of her head. And you'll need to make a second ear, and you'll notice a lot in this video I kind of skip around a little bit just so that it didn't end up 5 hours long. So, and it's also sped up, so don't think that you need to be felting in 20 minutes. This is a 5-6 hour project, so this is broad strokes for you to kind of get a jumping off point and then kind of figure out how to do it yourself. And you're always welcome to ask questions in the comments. I will answer them as best I can. Right here, this is just going to be her upper lip, and where her nose is going to go, it's going to give her some definition at the middle of her face, and we'll put her nose and make her mouth and everything below it. And needle felting is funny because times you don't really know what you're making until you're like 3/4 of the way through the project, but that's really gratifying, and at the same time you can make adjustments as you go along, and sometimes they don't turn out well. They don't turn out how you pictured or how you did it the first or second time, and you just start over. It's not that big of a deal, and if you're working in small scale or miniature scale, you're not, wasting that much wool. So just practice makes perfect. Adding an extra little thin layer of wool kind of just it relaxes some of the definition of adding those extra pieces and makes it look more natural, like it's her normal face and not this piece stuck on the middle of her face. So right here is where we're going to put the definition of her smile and her mouth, and I'm using one of my thicker needles, and then once I have the right shape, I'll start using the fine needle again to do the more gentle pieces. You're going to need a really, really thin piece of wool. Is kind of too thin to even felt by itself. You can do a few little punches, but it's mostly just rolling. And then this is going to be her bottom lip and kind of the accent the rest of her smile more. Not sure if you've noticed, I just want to point out that the needles that I'm using for most of the detail work are my middle gauge needle and my finest needle, the smallest needle. They're color coded. The gold one is the finest and the red one is kind of the middle gauge. I would have really liked to list the kit that I got because it was really informative and really good, but the lady doesn't sell them anymore. So the one that I offer, or the one that I list on my blog, it's an inexpensive basic starter kit. So but it's not color coded. If you'd be interested in me starting to offer kits that are color coded or that come with the exact wools that I use or whatever, just let me know in the comments, and I could get some of those together. It just depends on how interested people are. This is going to be her little nose, and as far as the eye sockets go, you could not do those and just felt the eyes straight onto her head. That's what I did with the first head I did, and I actually liked how that came out better. But it also depends if you're doing glass eyes instead of needle felted eyes, you'll need sockets to make it look like she's not bug-eyed. But if you're felting the eyes, she turned out a lot better not making the sockets, just because she's cartoon and she's going from 2D to 3D. She looked a lot better having her eyes kind of just the natural felting on the flat surface. So both, I have listings for both like the blue and black wool and for cat glass eyes on the blog link listed below. So whichever one you feel more comfortable using and you feel will look best with your creation. Now, I'm going to be real with you here. I had a really hard time doing the eyes the second time. I scrapped this head. I'm going to remake it because I did not like how the eyes turned out. So my finished piece had, the finished piece has the first head that I made, and the piece that I have offered for sale, it's the first head that I made. And the sockets, I think, messed it up, and then I was a little more careful. It's kind of hard working under the camera, so I was able to pay a little bit more attention to it. So if it doesn't look like it's coming out right, you can always try to pull it out the best you can, or kind of felt over it and then just start over. So sometimes working with the wool can be a little unpredictable sometimes, because that needle, your hands are only so precise, and so it's just like any sculpture. Sometimes they come out looking perfect, and sometimes they come out looking wonky. So, if you have to make it a couple times to make it look the way you want to, don't be hard on yourself. It's it's just part of learning how to do it. So once you're happy with your head and all the details are looking like you want it, you need a right angle cut out of a pipe. I just used one pipe cleaner for this. If you want to make it bigger, you can use more. The pipe cleaners are just easier to use than regular wire. And then I shaped some arms and legs out of equal lengths of more pipe cleaner, kind of just cut the rest of the pipe cleaner in half. And then you'll need to felt, wrap it as tightly as possible. This will help save you some time, but shape the body with the wire the way you want, and then start adding pieces of felt around all of the limbs and the torso and get a nice base going. And then we'll add pieces that kind of connect everything and make it look more natural. Add some little hip bones and things like that to make her look more cat-like and less skeleton-like. be very careful not to hit the wire that's in the pipe cleaner. I mean, you probably will on accident, but make sure that you're not trying to punch all the way through your felt, that you're being very gentle, because you can really dull your needles or break them, which would be bad. So just be easy and don't try to go right in the middle where the wire is. Just try to go around the wire and felt around it, because you don't want to break your needle. Okay, so now we're just going to make her some little hip bones. Everything doesn't have to be super tightly felted down right now. We're just going to add some more shaping to her so that, again, she looks more natural, like a cat and not like a doll. So this will add some, I used too much, so you can always pull the wool off. Just made a little round disc, and depending on whether you want her to have a bigger belly or a bigger behind, you can add the little extra fluff of wool on the belly or the back. And just try to felt around it, give it that definition of her having little haunches to sit on, and do it for both sides like that. And then you'll want to also cover that like we have in the past. You want to cover it with a very light amount like this, just to make it look more natural, and it'll give you more control over the overall detail and shape, just like this one. And then felt your arms and legs down to get her to sit up straight. I kind of felted her front leg and front two legs together a little bit where her feet are. And then to attach her head, you're going to need a little bit of needle and thread. We'll be using blanket stitches, and I try to go slowly to kind of show you how the blanket stitch works. And right here. And this is kind of a cinch, and it's I messed up right here. I was going underneath and needed to go the other way. But that's okay. I kind of made a pre-hole for where I wanted the thread to come out. And this method makes it easier to give her a head that turns, and she's a lot more sturdy than if I had just felted her head onto her body. I wanted her to have a real thin neck, because she does in the cartoon that she's based on. And don't worry about if any thread is showing. Your primary concern, that's another blanket stitch right there. Primary concern is just to get her head to stay on, and then you can always add a little bit of wool over any thread that you have sticking out. And just make sure to, we're going to do one more blanket stitch right here, just as extra security, and then tie it off. And felt a little bit of wool over it. And make sure you use a light colored thread, so that it doesn't, you don't have to put as much extra wool on top of it. It doesn't shine through or anything. A light pink, a white, or I think I used beige here, would work well. added a little 1/4-inch satin bow to the back of her neck. I tried tying it around her neck, but it made her look weird. So I just I just added it to the back of her neck, and with the same, I shaped the bow first, and then I sewed it on using the same blanket stitches as we used for her head, and posed her the way I wanted, and cleaned everything up with the embroidery scissors. And this is your Marie. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you for watching.